tick-tock, tick-tock. Are y'all ready to rock?
It's music time! Hello, universe. Hello, listeners. Welcome to the It's Music Time podcast. My name is Morgan Mitchell.
And I am Tanner Grover, and this is what we do. And today we are doing it with
Stephen Kerr, a.k.a.
Odds Are. Stephen, welcome to the podcast.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
We are stoked.
Absolutely. So, Stephen, you're hailing us from Portland, Maine. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Awesome. We're going to get more into you and all your endeavors and your bio in a little bit, but we like to open up every episode with a fun little game. In today's game, Stephen, as you are known as Odds Are, we are going to play Vegas Odds. So we have 5 trivia questions for you, and the answer will either be Vegas superstar Wayne Newton or Tom Jones. Are you ready to play Vegas Odds?
Let's do it.
All right, here we go.
Okay, question number 1. This is a very serious game, as you can tell.
Yeah.
Question number 1. Odds are which Vegas star performed on a daily morning radio gig before heading off to school when they were just 6 years old? Was it Wayne Newton or Tom Jones? What do you think?
Ooh, man, I don't know too much about Tom Jones, and I know slightly more about Wayne Newton, but not much. I'm going to go with Tom Jones.
Very close. It is Wayne.
It was a 50-50 shot. You know, just like a Russian roulette. It's all good.
It is Wayne. Number 2.
All right, number 2. Odds are which Vegas star speaks fluent Welsh? Is it Wayne Newton or Tom Jones?
I got to go Tom Jones.
Correct. Well
Beautiful
done.
work.
Nice
Number
recovery.
3. Odds are which Vegas star has a great love for Arabian horses? And get this, owning around 45. Wayne or Tom? Who is it?
That's got Wayne Newton written all over it.
100%.
Correct.
Bravo. Well done. Number 4.
All right, odds are which Vegas star has stated they are not fond of folks flinging undergarments on stage, as despite it being, a thoughtful gesture, it's a gesture that distracts from their impeccable singing. Did Wayne Newton say that, or was it Tom Jones?
I'm staying with Wayne Newton.
This one was Tom.
Close.
Yeah, that was close.
Tom all the way.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
The final very serious question for you. Odds are which Vegas star was once rumored to have their own chest hairs insured for a whopping $7 million doll hairs? Was it Wayne or Tom?
See, that's the kind of question that anybody, I think my parents would not be happy with me not knowing, because it seems like the kind of thing everyone knew pre-1990. Tom Jones?
Correct.
Correct.
It is.
The man
Okay.
had impeccable chest there.
Well done. Beautiful. All right. Well, moving right along to our next section. Tanner, what do we got?
Right. So the next thing we want to do before we get into our bio is we always like to illuminate our guests on the number 1 Billboard song the day they were born. So, Stephen, you came into our lives December 8th, 1991. Do you have any idea what the number 1 Billboard song was on that day?
Oh, I lost you there for a second. So the number 1 Billboard song on
The day
which
you were
day?
born.
The day we're born, December 8th.
December 8th, 1991.
1991. Oh, number 1 Billboard song. I could take a guess. I could take a couple guesses. I'm not sure.
That's
I
great.
want to say, yeah, maybe it was it's before that time. It could have been Nirvana.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'll stick with Yeah, I'll say Nirvana. I don't remember exactly when it was, but we'll say Smells Like Teen Spirit. See what happens.
Yeah, that's a great guess. That's
Super guess,
such
man.
in the wheelhouse. It's a different genre, all right, but equally influential. It was Black or White by Michael Jackson.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. Great. That's
So
a great one.
next,
That's
next karaoke night, we know what you're saying.
oh, absolutely. I mean, I'm gonna have to shed that one for a long time. Get some skills I don't quite have.
So let's share with listeners a little bit about the magic of you. So we're so stoked to have you on the show. We have listened to your music. It's so beautiful. So let's tell listeners a little bit about Stephen Kerr, a little bit about Odds Are. So I'll get right into it here. So the beautiful bio you shared with us, we've got Merriam-Webster defines the phrase odds are as, quote, something is likely to happen. And that's about as particular as one can get, defining the music and ethos of Odds Are. In the words of Eric Danton, the music is, quote, alternative folk defined as broadly as possible. Fingerstyle guitars commonly underline four-part vocal harmonies, which give way to banjos, Brazilian percussion, or field recordings of birds, all often baked into the traditional forms of American popular song. Beginning with 2013's release, IDK, multiple instrumentalist composer Stephen Kerr has released a string of albums under the name Odds Are, which gained steam in 2021, seeing the release of AFAIK in 2022's Life Stands Still Here and 2024's release Port of Call and Revolving Door. Odds Are is slated to release an as yet untitled EP before the close of the year. Yay! Odds Are, aka Stephen Kerr. Welcome to It's Music Time.
Thank you so much. Very happy.
Absolutely. So, Stephen, we went through your catalog, and we consistently found a series of sometimes sunny, sometimes melancholy, either little ditties, but then these other pieces that present themselves as really what I would consider fully formed indie folk songs. Other times it's a little bit more avant-garde and experimental, but it's pretty evident that this past year you're in the midst of a real creative groove with the two releases and the forthcoming EP. So maybe take a minute to kind of touch upon the blueprint for what listeners can expect from an Odds Are record.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. That's when I started making music under the name Odds Are, it was the space where I could kind of get rid of having too many parameters for how I was going to make this piece, how I was going to make that piece, but I realized really quickly that because I gave it a lot of freedom, it it obtained its own, I guess, like color and style to it. So yeah, like you said, the forms are very much you're going to have this kind of more fully formed song, and then you're going to have snippets, and they're not really designed per se as snippets, but I don't really, if it feels done at 30 seconds in or 20 seconds in or 10 minutes, that's not going to really stop me from just letting it be how it is. So yeah, I don't know. I think I'm still I don't know if expectation is the kind of thing I would encourage a listener to come in with for this kind of music. That being said, it has there are certain, like I said before, there are certain things about a lot of these albums that I'm putting out that I can see, and I think other people can see too, that connect the dots from one to the other. Yeah, so I expect to have your expectations a little bit thrown off.
Beautiful.
Oh, I love
That's
that.
such a good answer. So we just both like really love what you're up to, and I think it's rare and kind of this sacred cool thing to interact with an artist that is clearly, as you said, like working outside of too many parameters or constraints or expectations, and really, like when I listen to your creations, when I listen to your music, it's clear to me that you have like a real ear to your own ground. Like you're really like closely listening, to your world, but to your inspiration in a way that feels like very meddled, and really inspiring. So I'm curious about your process. There's so much feeling and so much like authenticity infused in your work, like wondering when something strikes you and what your sort of relationship with the piece you're working on is. Does it kind of haunt you? Is it more a feeling? Is it come in textures? How does your brain work in terms of birthing something like this?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, and that's like the answer to this is really like the reason that it also answers the question, the reason I do and love music at all.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this is a universal thing, but for me, it's just been like, there's something, so I don't know if it's if a feeling seems even a little bit too limiting to call it, but there's some like awareness of a different space or a different world,
Yep.
Not necessarily like a physical world, but just a different it's the awareness of something that isn't maybe your present reality.
Sure.
And yeah, so I guess a feeling. I guess I can call it a feeling. There's just a certain feeling, and it's just not something I can communicate. You can't talk about it. You can't. I don't know if it's something I can like. But when I start to play around on an instrument, whether it's guitar or singing or drumming on a table, that happens a lot. Sometimes it'll like give me a little like piece, like I'll get a jolt of like, oh, there's a little bit tiny piece of that feeling that I had, or that, sense of some kind of world. And then the more I experiment, I can find, okay, this taps into that maybe a little bit more. And it's just a process of like kind of inching forwards toward capturing more and more and more and more of that, whatever that feeling is. And at the end, if I stay true to that and don't get caught up in expectations of myself or expectations of, what I want people to think of me when they hear my music, if I can push all that aside enough, most of the time I'll end up with a song or just a piece, whether it's a recording or just something that I kind of memorize as I play. I'll end up with something that allows me to enter into that world that I wasn't able to express before. So I don't know. It's like kind of feeling towards it, and then hoping that what you end up with is like a little key.
I love that feeling toward it. Yep.
So if every song and every idea is an expression or a feeling, can I ask you about one specific song? Because, if I were as a fan of your music to like introduce a friend to your catalog, like the one song that resonated with me, I don't know why I couldn't answer that question, is I'm Known off of the Revolving Door, which, to me, it's kind of this slow, meditative, kind of ruminating song. But there's like I don't know, a hint of emotion in your voice, maybe, where it's like, what are we talking about with that particular track? What is, the genesis of I'm Known?
Oh, good question. I think that's one of these songs. Sometimes I'll find myself writing the same type of song every couple years or so. I don't know about the time scale on that, but like every now and again, I find like writing a song and I'm like, okay, I've written this kind of song before. That one I'm known is one of those. Um, it's just, yeah, I remember the first time I wrote a song like that was, I think, 12 years ago. Um, I don't even think the name of that one was called See You Around. I remember distinctly because I recorded it and I put it on a CDR, and I went to a Yola Tango concert, and I like gave the CDR of that song to Ira Kaplan from Yola Tango, which who knows where it ended up. But that's, yeah, I think there's a lot of, yeah, there's definitely a lot of emotion in that song. Um, yeah, I don't know. I don't know where the inspiration came from for that one. I think that started on guitar. Um, there's, how it has that kind of that really low grinding kind of guitar part with like the steady groove. It's,
Yes.
yeah, something like that's just something a lot. I'll kind of, it feels good. I guess is the upshot when I'm playing something like that. I'm like, yeah, it just like feels really good. So I can't let it go. I gotta put that one down.
Yeah, well, it's funny, and when you hear songs, and a lot of times with songwriters, you don't know if they're writing it from a personal thing or if it's in the voice of a character, but one way or another, things relate to people. And when I hear it, it's like has this element of, I'm known, I'm present, I'm here, and I'm understood. So that was, whether or not that was the intent, that was my takeaway from it. And it's great. I commend you.
Well, thanks. Yeah, yeah. Lyrically, yeah. I guess I've been kind of thinking more like just the purely musical side, but yeah, I mean, lyrically, that's absolutely what my feeling is too. And yeah, I even in after having made it, I give myself kind of permission to reinterpret what it is, like as anybody else would. I'm just as much an audience as somebody else, but I think that song does. Yeah, it's yeah, there's like an empowerment in that song that I feel. Yeah. It's
I
kind of
agree.
like when you're just like really, it's like a high awareness kind of song.
Hmm. Hmm. And one other question about, when you're talking about kind of like moving toward a feeling or sensation or a glimmer or a inflection or something that you might feel or experience, a vibration, something, and then moving toward it through singing, songwriting, music making. Do you recall in your life, maybe early life, like some of those pivotal moments or deep resonant moments where you thought, ooh, this is a feeling that's invoking something in me to want to create that again, or to get closer to it, or to investigate it in my own way? Like, are there moments or sensations that really kind of informed the way that you continue to kind of excavate toward a feeling?
Yeah. Um yeah, and I don't know if that came what you're saying, I don't think that was necessarily attached to music making initially. It's just that music became kind of a vehicle for it. Yeah, I remember just like my family would in the summer we would take trips to Hancock Point, right near Acadia National Park. We would take out every summer we would take a trip out. We had a big family cottage that, aunts and uncles, grandparents, everybody went there for a little bit of time in the summer. And just, even at a really early age, I can just remember like being in our car looking like out, like we would wake up at 2:30 a.m., which we, almost never did, however old I was, for these like early memories, 7 or something. And we wake up really, really early in the house and get in the car at night, and you could, we'd just be like kind of wired and awake and like looking out the window at the stars in the morning. And it's just like, I think the upshot was getting out of my normal, well, exploring, like I was so young. I hadn't, like, that was the furthest I had been out of home, out of my town where I grew up, and we would take these trips, and like anytime I was kind of exploring past what I had, had already kind of understood, that I would get more feelings. And that happened when I was in high school too. I remember getting a bicycle for the first time, and it was kind of, for me, one of the first things that allowed me some independence from home. And all I did was just go to the, like, I don't know, 5 or 10 minutes down the road to a different neighborhood, but I had never been there. I didn't know what the roads were. I didn't know anything really about it, but like I would just go to kind of sit somewhere new and just like soak in the environment, whether, I would just like sit by a little stone wall or something. And yeah, so I think the feeling, that kind of thing has just really tied itself in with like exploration, yeah.
I love that. And I think too, like when you talk about in your songs, sometimes layering in bird sounds or things that feel very exploratory, very ambient or environmental, and being able to like trace some of that back to this spirit of exploration and curiosity, it sounds like, which is really powerful.
Yeah, a lot of curiosity. I think I don't think I had ever looked at it real, as directly as we are, which is cool for me. But yeah, definitely, that's something I'm doing.
So I wasn't 100% sure, but it sounds like you grew up in Maine.
I grew up in Massachusetts.
Massachusetts. Okay.
Yeah, I grew up near Worcester, in a town called Sutton. And yeah, we would spend our summers going to Hancock. My grandparents are from Dover Foxcroft and from Dexter, so and Sullivan and Sorrento. So we have a lot of Maine history in the family. But yeah, I was born and raised in Massachusetts. So Portland for me is, I've only been here for about 6 months.
All right.
Right. So we do want to transition into our deep cut portion of the show, but before we do that, you've been in Portland for 6 months. Portland has its own music scene. So, is there going to be at some point where you'll be performing in front of an audience? And if that's the case, where might one find an Odds Are show?
Yeah, absolutely. I've been playing a lot at a bar called High Fidelity. They have a really, if you don't know about it, they have a really wonderful open mic on Mondays. So it's worth, if you're ever in the Portland area, it's a worthy use of time, because the environment is really, it's really supportive. It's really open. The folks who work there are fantastic. The sound is good. So kind of
Cool.
It's a good thing. So I'm playing there. And I'm working on, I've been meeting a lot of new people, a lot of musicians here. So I'm working on putting together a little group. Yeah, so I think this winter, once I get this next album out onto the shelves, then it's going to be mobilizing for booking some more gigs. And I would book as far as Camden, or Rockport, or even further. I don't think even that. I'm like, yeah, you can. I'll put when the shows come out, which they will. I'll put them up on the social stuff.
Beautiful.
That's awesome.
We'll
Yeah.
keep a close eye on that.
We're down in Booth Bay Harbor, and so we would love to, somehow finesse a way for you to have a performance done on this peninsula.
Yeah. Let's get it finessed.
All right.
Perfect. All right, deep cut time. So transitioning to the section of the show where Tanner designs a question that kind of invites us to look a little bit deeper, kind of a playful, bit more obscure. So on this episode, we want to ask the question, if you were to host a dinner, like a dinner party, honoring one of your favorite musicians and musicians, music makers, music adjacent people, maybe we keep it somewhat broad there, what would you cook for them? And who would be invited? And what guest of honor are we welcoming in and celebrating here?
Okay, should I do it in that order?
Any order. Any
Yeah.
order is good.
Okay. I think I'll do it completely backwards.
Great.
I think the guest of honor would be Mozart.
Oh, hey.
Yeah, we got to bring him in, bring him back.
Bring him back.
From the 1700s to the present into my dining room.
Love that.
Mozart, yeah, I would choose Mozart. And for other guests, I thought the best approach would be to bring other like contemporaries of Mozart. Because if I were him, I would feel way more comfortable if I had some of my friends, And then it was like, I don't want to put him at a disadvantage. Like if it were me, and all of a sudden I'm in the future in year 2300, it would be much better if I had a bunch of my friends with me. So we'll say Haydn was, another composer, contemporary, maybe Salieri, maybe I think one of the grandsons of Bach, Carl Philipp Emanuel Bach was around, so we'll bring him in, and I'll cook apple pan dowdy. Which, do you know apple pan dowdy?
No, but I want all of it.
It's so good. I have a little colonial cookbook. This is making me sound like I'm really I'm super into the 1700s. That's not the case.
Okay.
But I just happen to have a colonial cookbook, and the other day I had a bunch of spare apples, so I made this recipe which involves lining like a baking dish with finger slices of bread. So you line it with bread, and then you fill it with sliced apples. And otherwise, it's kind of like an apple crisp. But it just has this bread that soaks it all in. And apparently, the recipe was a favorite in the George Washington household. Martha Washington would bake it all the time.
Interesting.
So I thought that would be, I made it I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, and it was super good. And I would love to see if Mozart and his homies would be like, "Whoa, this is apple pan dowdy." We know all about this. How did you know
about this? Very slick. I like it. Cool. What about you, Tanner? What would you do?
So I've thought about this, and I'm going to go kind of a different direction. Listeners of this podcast know that I love Michael Stipe, and to have the opportunity to entertain him would be fun and fantastic. But then it would also be really difficult because I'm pretty sure he's probably a picky eater. So I'm going to go a different direction. And I would entertain the artist known as Meatloaf. And I want to serve meatloaf to Meatloaf. And furthermore, as far as the guests go, I really want to invite the cast of Rocky Horror Picture Show because as fascinated as I am by Meatloaf, the artist who basically, popularized the rock opera, I love Tim Curry, and he's just such a nut. And I would love to pick the brain of Dr. Frankenfurter at the party for Meatloaf, as well as Susan Sarandon. She'll be there. And then the actors that played, Riff Raff, Columbia, Dr. Scott, Barry Bostwick will be there. And so I just think it'll be this really entertaining kind of cosplay dinner party where we celebrate Meatloaf. And he doesn't even have to eat, traditional meatloaf. If he's not into that, we can get him a vegan version. That's fine. But that would be my dinner party.
I'd be there.
That's
Morgan,
fantastic.
what do you think?
I would be there in a second. I think a lot of things right now,
Sure.
but I think that sounds so cool.
Oh, can I just quickly mention,
Absolutely.
my partner is making meatloaf tonight. So if you all want to come over, maybe we can convince the cast of
We're on our
Rocky
way.
Horror.
We are recording on a Monday, so it is Meatloaf Monday.
We're on our way.
Oh, true.
I love it. Oh, you two. I don't know. Okay, so this is hard for me. But I think I would really like to have dinner with a bunch of my musical heroes. And I think a way of stealthily doing that is to invite a producer over for dinner and then have the guests be the people that this producer worked with. So I think I'd like to have dinner with Rick Rubin. And I think I'd like to make a big, comforting, warming lentil soup because I feel like it would put us all in like a good sort of soupy, slow place because I would want to savor every moment with these beautiful people. He's worked with so many greats.
Yeah, you might have a big party.
It would be big, but I would have to make some arrangements, maybe rent out the town hall or something. But I think we could work it out, honestly. So yeah, Rick Rubin, and then gosh, LL Cool J, the Red Hot Chili Pepper. Like there's just so many people that he's worked with. And I think, I'd just be curious to like eat soup, ask questions. He's someone that I really admire of having just like a real faith in the creative process and a real trust around the emergent quality of music and art. So I wouldn't like plan too much about the dinner. I think I would just kind of like keep in that spirit of let's see what happens, and cast a wide net of invitations, see who shows up, and kind of watch it all constellate together. So lentil soup with Rick Rubin and some of the incredible people that they've worked with.
That sounds great.
I love it. I think it's delicious.
Yeah, it's delicious. It's pretty delicious. Speaking of deliciousness, we are going to move on to the delicious Mix It Up playlist portion, which is the Mix It Up playlist is an accompanying playlist that we have for every episode. So listeners get the opportunity to get a window into the taste and the workings of our guest, and in this case, odds are Stephen, and a couple selections from us as well. So you can listen to this episode and then listen to the playlist and really sort of get more of a surround sound view of what it is to drink in some of the pieces that speak to, in this case, Stephen. So do you want to talk a little bit about a couple of those?
Yeah. Yeah, I can. I guess I can start because I put a Mozart piece on this, and my dinner guest was Mozart. Well, hopefully would be Mozart. I'm just gonna work on that. Um, Got to get a time machine, but yeah, I put a piece by Mozart on, and it's his 36th symphony is the one I chose because I've been listening to it like kind of nonstop this year, I guess. Yeah, sometime around April, I just started putting this on. Um, yeah, just a little background. I was working. I was just listening, realizing I didn't know so much of his music. And so I was just really trying to expose myself to more of it and see, like, okay, can I find a piece that I like? I have a lot of modern artists who I really, really, really love them. Um, just the music hits me, and I'm just, yeah, this is it. No questions asked, no thought needed. But in the classical realm, I thought, well, maybe that's fewer and further between where these pieces really like, you know, dig deep and just kind of you just feel it, and you're like, that's enough. You don't have to think about it. So I decided to explore and see what I could find. And this particular symphony did that for me. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't pick a movement, so it's kind of a lot of music. It's four movements, and each one of the movements has completely its own character. Um, so you have a very stately opening that's kind of magisterial, and it has like a lot of brass instruments, and then you have another movement that's really like beautiful and lilting and long, luxurious melodic phrases that are easy and kind of have this, like passion to them. And then you have another movement that's really fast and kind of vivacious. So it's, difficult to speak to the whole piece, but I maybe that's what I like about it, is that it kind of takes you, and it's taken so many times listening through this to really bring myself through that whole pattern. Sometimes I'll just have, like, listening to one movement is enough. Each of them is long, and it's not a lot of repeated material. But I think it's really beautiful stuff. The melodies just speak so much, and I think Mozart was somebody whose music was very, maybe in a similar spirit to my music. I would like to think, anyway. There's almost an abstraction to it. It's not really, a lot of other composers of the time were writing dance music for parlor events and
Mhm.
social events and concerts, and they had this function, um, or like operas that had a storyline, which of course Mozart did in his own way. But a lot of what he was doing, and I know I'm really digging in here, um, a lot of what Mozart was doing was not seen as reachable to the average listener at the time. People listen, they're like, what is this guy doing? It doesn't really feel like it was more avant-garde. And nowadays, of course, today's the way we relate to classical music is a bit different, but now people who are like into classical music talk about it like it was this big popular pop music of its time. But it wasn't. It was kind of an otherworldly, like, abstract thing that he was doing. um, so yeah, maybe I see a little bit of, the things that I love about music and that I want to put into my own music. I get inspired by that, and I get taken to different worlds when I listen to it.
I can see that in
Stunning.
your material in a lot of ways because the avant-garde element of it, I think the only difference is it's maybe more compartmentalized than what Mozart put together. I understand what you're talking about, and I went through my own kind of classical phase, and was also drawn to Mozart. And, if there are any listeners out there that haven't tried to just listen to some classical music, I think it's a great starting place.
Yeah, totally.
Beautiful.
Morgan, what about you? What's a song you want to highlight?
I chose a song called Rays of Light by Naomi Young. It's a classical piece. It's kind of a bit ambient. Some piano, but it's a song that really moves me deeply. I listen to a lot of music without lyrics and do work with collective painting to music, leading groups of that sort. And I'm constantly kind of sifting through songs that evoke something, a sensory something, and this one does for me. So yeah, Rays of Light by Naomi Young. What about you, Tanner?
So the song I want to highlight, it's called Joker Lips by MJ Lenderman, who he's been putting out material for about 4 or 5 years. I believe he's from North Carolina. Pretty young guy. I think he's only about 25. And he reminds me a lot of Wilco, kind of that alt country vibe, but pretty easy to listen to. And he's actually performing at the State Theater on May 4th. So that would be a fun show for people in the Portland area to check out. I might try and get hands on some tickets myself if it all works out. But if you haven't listened to MJ Lenderman, Joker Lips is a great track, and he's got a lot of style material. So check that out.
Right on.
I haven't heard that song, but I have listened to some MJ Lenderman, and I do like it.
I haven't. I'm excited to dig in.
Yeah.
I love that quality of this portion of the podcast is, just seeing the likes and dislikes of artists and, Tanner, like seeing, I don't know, music's so intimate and like why it resonates with us is such an intimate thing. And so as much as sharing music might seem kind of mundane, there's something really powerful about like, that touches you and you're sharing it with me. And let me see how it interacts with my system. Like, whoa, cool, interesting. So thank you for taking so much time and giving listeners such a juicy selection of songs. It's going to be really fun to listen to.
Oh, likewise. Yeah, I'm excited to check out the tunes that you all threw down.
For sure. Well, we're kind of sauntering our way towards close here, if we can imagine. But before we do transition, wanted to make sure people know where to find you. So in the world of the internet and the socials, we'll make sure that people know that they can find you at odds-r.bandcamp.com.
Yeah.
To listen to your music on Bandcamp. Always a supporter of buying the music, listening to the music of artists. Instagram odds.r.music, as in period, odds period r period music. Beautiful. Yeah, and Spotify, just search Odds R, and Stephen's work will come up.
Yeah, Apple Music, all that.
All of the streaming platforms. Very good. And in terms of this podcast, if you're listening, you probably already know, but we're at It's Music Time Podcast on Spotify, YouTube, Instagram, and the Book of Face.
The Book of Face, yes. And don't touch that dial. Stephen, aka Odds R, has been kind enough to contribute some music to this program for our encore performance. Once we sign off, everyone's going to be treated to Crows, which I believe is an unreleased track at the recording of this podcast, but we are completely stoked to hear Crows. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Before we sign off, anything else you wanted to share with listeners about what you're up to, or any final thoughts before we kind of send ourselves on our way?
Oh, I'm just grateful to be here talking music. It's I think it's great what you all got going here. It's a wonderful thing to just I never saw that, like, I never really, I don't know if I enjoy getting like technical. I shouldn't. Sometimes I do, but to me, the real point of music is what we've been talking about. It's kind of the connection side and what it means. So thanks for making a space for that. It's pretty awesome.
Thank you so much for
Really
all of your
appreciate
reflections. Yeah, I have a lot to think about, and that's the beauty of the compounding nature of creativity, is like the lens through which you see and you create then comes into our lenses, and then we kind of like a kaleidoscope mix it into what already exists with us, and it goes on and on and on. And so thank you for being such an inspiration. I feel like I learned a lot today.
Yeah, and in addition to enlightening us, what a privilege it is for us to then craft this show for our listeners to hopefully provide an escape for them and give them some things to check out. So check out Odds Are. You've got the socials. We're going to print that up in all of our social media posts. Check out the Mix It Up playlist, and hope everyone just keeps rocking on.
Very good. Thank you, listeners. Thank you, universe, for tuning in. Thank you, Stephen, so much for your time and sharing your energy with us. We'd love to hear any feedback, listeners, or questions that you might have on this episode. Consider leaving us a review. Feel inspired. Share this podcast with a friend, with a stranger, with someone on the bus. And we appreciate your support, community, as always. Until next time, stay cooler than cool. Odds Are. Stephen Kerr, thank you so much, and be well.
Much.
All right, thank you both.
All right.
All right.
Bye.
All right.
Bye.
Trees below me, grows in the trees above, grows in the hidden valley no one knows the name of. Lower window for no one, lower window for none. Leave this open hillside, the web that the spider has spun.
The It's Music Time podcast is an independent passion project produced by Tanner Grover and Morgan Mitchell. The theme song for this podcast is by Ben Shepherd, the artist known as Yay Yay. Find him on Instagram at Yay Yay Music. Thanks for tuning in to the It's Music Time podcast. See you next time.